The abortion issue is another issue which I very much appreciated the way I saw Deval Patrick handling it during his campaign. It is probably one of the most difficult individual, if not family, situations that people hopefully don't, but if they have to face, they have to face. It's a very deeply personal and private issue, and I somehow cannot see government intrusion into that role. I think that the United States Supreme Court has made it fairly clear under Roe v. Wade in the recognition of a woman's right to choose what happens with her body and what's going on inside it as well as outside of it. And I also think that the issue of abortion has crept its way into the American political scene, again, as a very divisive issue. There's been more divide and conquer, and it's united we stand, and I just think that there is so much of importance that is public issue for our representatives, for our senators, for our state houses to be dealing with, again, than what's going on in a private bedroom, or a poor woman who's now pregnant, and I hope that she has the counsel of her family, if that's her wishes, or her doctor or her minister, to deal with this very burdensome question. But I can't see the government being in that room of counseling, say, if she's talking with, and I really don't like to see the issue used to divide up people from one another when they're trying to decide together what's best for their country, what's best for their state, what's best for their district. And that is where I stand on that issue.
I just have one final question to close.
Yes.
What is your greatest fear for America's future, and conversely, what is your greatest hope for America?
Well, my greatest fear is that we're unable to turn around the direction that we've been going in. And there are very powerful forces, very large money forces, that I feel are using our government to control us and make us work for them. It's said that nearly 100% of the taxes that we pay every year are paying the interest on the national debt. And that goes to the Federal Reserve. And so I say, husband and wife get up, say Happy New Year, dear, on the 1st of January, and go to work all the way till sometime in mid-May, only to pay over money to the Federal Reserve. And then the government decides how it's going to spend money, and you saw the lack of balance in that it's going to this military-industrial complex, which is getting bigger and more powerful, and really we have a right to feel afraid of it, because it's bad stuff, it's not life-supporting. And so my biggest fear is that we continue in this direction of erosion of our rights. The worst is the warning that Congressman Oliver gave us last July 5th, that we're going to be under martial law, that the 2008 elections are going to be suspended, that we're never rid of Bush and Cheney and the military-industrial complex. That's the worst, I think, and it would only get worse from there. My greatest hope is that many of the 105 people like myself who are running to refresh the House, as I say, get into office, get to work together with some of the leaders that are enlightened that are down there. I like Dennis Kucinich very much, and I like what the man stands for. I think we should have a Department of Peace as well as a Department of Defense. And I don't think we should be involved in preemptive strikes, especially when we're not under any imminent threat. It's a wrong application of our resources, of our people, and a waste of our political goodwill in the world. There is a wonderful book that was written by a gentleman who grew up in Chicopee Falls, and he wrote it in 1879, and when it came out, it sold in its first 6 months over 600,000 copies, equaling what Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin did. It was the best read book, one of the 2 best read books in the country. Edward Bellamy was the author's name. It became known as the first utopian novel, and it was called Looking Backward. And it just shows, to me, coming to the end of the book, and what it was is back in 1879, he's looking at what life would be like up in 2000. And of course, we're now looking back at what life was back in 2000. But where he saw us in this country flourishing to from back then, and to see how short we have fallen of it, is a great sadness, because I think if we had the freedom and the liberty interests and the privacy interests that our Constitution afforded us, and every individual could fulfill himself and we could assist one another in doing that, that it would just be a tremendous elevation of our culture, rather than this kind of oppressive force that we feel and we are living under now. So I dream of a day of greater liberty and greater personal development, and where we all help one another and make sure we have roofs over our heads and heat in the wintertime, and plenty of food on the table, good food, local food. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Feuer.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. And I'd like to thank the Sterling Democratic Town Committee.
Robert, thank you.
And also like to thank those of you who came this evening. Good night.